basically what we're saying is the data shows us that women aren't being reflected how they want to be. Their stories aren't being told how they want to tell the stories. So a part of the content for change was to create, give women the power to show the stories they wanted to be told. You can just see how people are proud and, they want to see themselves. And I think as storytellers, you've got to tap into that. Your audience is changing all the time, and you need to understand the changes that are happening and be on trend to represent people in a way that they want to be represented. But I just wanted to kind of read out this stat here. When it comes to female representation, the results show that women see the need for people to see accurate, reflective representations of themselves on screen. 78% of adult women worldwide believe diverse representations in TV shows and movies is important. We also found that there is a disconnect between what women are looking for and what they actually see in TV and movies. Currently, only 39% of women across the globe feel they are represented on screen. And this has decreased in the years from 43% in 2021. So basically what we're saying is the data shows us that women aren't being reflected how they want to be. Their stories aren't being told how they want to tell the stories. So a part of the content for change was to create, give women the power to show the stories they wanted to be told. And this was an initiative that we rolled out as part of International Women's Day. And it's called In Bloom. And we gave the opportunity to 5 women from across the globe the opportunity to tell their stories in the way they want to be told.
Can you tell us a bit about any recent initiative Paramount implemented in this sense? Because they did a lot, and I'm thinking especially one in Israel.
Yes, and that follows on from your story, actually. So our team in Israel, the Annemie team in Israel, they are such a passionate bunch of creators. They are, anything they do with passion. They're so amazing to kind of listen to. But they were working on a film called The Malevolent Bride, and one of the characters is a transgender. And when they were doing the casting, they just couldn't find an actor They wanted to use a real transgender person, and they just couldn't find it. So what they did was they trained 12, went out in the community, and they trained 12 transgender people to be actors. And you may say, oh, wow, that's a brave thing to do. But I think it's part of our responsibility. I often hear people say so much, the talent's not there, we just can't find the talent. When I implore you, look harder, train the talent, do something different. Don't just say the talent's not there, because talent comes in all shapes and sizes. And I think what that exercise did for the team in Annemie was to think, if we want to create authentic stories and we want to do it with authenticity, we have a responsibility to go out and look harder and do something to change that mindset. And working with the transgender community, they worked with a consultant, and the consultant was transgender to help them make sure that we're telling the story authentically. Ironically, it was the consultant that they actually got to play the character. And again, don't always think you have to go and find a real, a long-term actor, because acting can come in so many different ways, and it's how people are portraying something. And this person was able to portray the character exactly how the director wanted them to be portrayed, and that was only because the director was working closely with a consultant to find out more about the transgender community. So I just think it's a beautiful story because they made that difference, right? And now they have a pool of transgender actors. If they want to tell those authentic stories, they can tap into that. And I think that's exactly what we need to do. And we have that responsibility to make that difference. So I think it's an amazing team effort from the Annemie team in Israel.
Thank you. That's actually really a nice story, to be honest.
And I can add maybe, when we looked for the boy and girl, okay, that was a more of a difficult thing, a boy and girl, we needed to have a good dancer, ballet dancer.
There you go.
So it was I think we made a call for at least 200 boys in that age group, 15 years, that were perfect ballet dancers. But then you have to choose, shall I go for a good ballet dancer or a transgender? And it was like the boy who played it was, I don't know whether he knew what he was at that time. But it was a long search, and we need absolutely to search for other actors than we all know, because we have to give the feeling at people that they count, that there's more than just looking at actors.
That they are seen, that actually. And Jonas, when we watch Flea, we are very connected, strongly connected to the story of Amin. And what would be your advice to maybe, an aspiring storyteller wanted to create social change through their work? Because how much of a change or how much of an impact did have Flea? Did you heard people talking about it? Did it spark conversation?
It did, yeah. And on both sides, kind of, because it's kind of a double coming out story. Amin didn't share his story of how he fled Afghanistan for 20 years, but also he didn't tell his family that he was gay for a long, long time. So it's kind of a double coming out story. So it kind of worked both, for people who hadn't experienced being a refugee to see what it's like, but also for people who doesn't understand how much it takes to come out to your family when you're from Afghanistan, to see that as well. So it sparked conversations all over the place, and it's been really moving to travel around with the film and see how people could relate to it, and people felt seen for the first time. But as for advice, it's always difficult to give advice on filmmaking. But I think going back to the curiosity, that you start out with curiosity, and then I think a crucial word is that you have to listen. If people kind of come in, bring an agenda, say, okay, I want to do this refugee story because I have this idea, it's like this, then you're on the wrong path from the get-go. You need to kind of sit down and listen. Especially if you want to do authentic documentaries, like you need to sit down and just listen to what's being said. And that will take you a long way.
And you said earlier today when we met, you said, I didn't want it to be a refugee story. I wanted it to be a human story. And I think that's so important, because sometimes when things get labeled, you then have certain people who just go to that label, and then you're missing the opportunity of interacting with another audience. So if you have a broad spectrum of how you promote that film, you bring in other people who then you have the opportunity to change their hearts and minds. So I thought that was beautiful.